concerns that students and parents have been facing in the school ecosystem. So it's really been such an enriching experience to be joined by so many educators, hear their diverse experiences, hear from their experiences what potential solutions can be to this problem. Today, actually, we're discussing something rather very important. Also today, as we are in the midst of considering opening up schools, a lot of states are now considering opening up and finally welcoming back students on the campus after such a long hiatus due to the pandemic. I think there's no more better time than right now to have a conversation about how we can make school spaces safe for all. And not only just talk about physical safety, but also to talk about how we can provide a wholesome environment where we can have a well-rounded child, where we can have a child who's feeling secure, a child who doesn't feel any sort of fear, any sort of inhibition about expressing herself or himself. Also creating a safe environment for our teachers, where our teachers can also express, where they can also create platforms, have forums where they can discuss the new age issues that they are facing in their classrooms, how they should be tackling it, an environment that supports good mental well-being for all the staff, for all the faculty, for all the students that are part of it. So while I was brainstorming this session with my team, I thought that, we need to find somebody who really is someone who is a marquee person and who has led immense number of reforms in the area of school education. And lucky for us, we happened to get in touch with Anuradha Monga ma'am, and she graciously accepted our invitation to share her thoughts with us on this topic. I mean, I'm sure all my viewers who are joining me today, I don't think she needs she needs any sort of introduction. As we speak, she's been a leading figure in K-12 education in India with more than 35 years of experience in school education and building various institutions. Her unique philosophy, which personally I connected to quite a bit, is to promote leadership through the heart and to ensure that we are putting inclusiveness into action, which really aligns with our topic that we're going to be discussing today. She has been the backbone of some of the leading institutions of the country today in various cities like Bombay, Kodaikanal, Bangalore. And, in 2005, I think, she did something really remarkable, which was probably unknown to the school landscape in India when she founded the Association of the International Schools of India, a platform for training and network purposes. And she truly has built a very unique platform for professional development and networking for school faculties, for school leadership. So a very, very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for taking out the time and joining us this evening.
Hello, my colleagues. It's lovely to be sharing things with you, and we all learn from each other. So here we go. What do you have for me?
So, ma'am, we already have a bunch of questions for you which are ready, and we can't wait to pick your brain on those questions. To all my fellow educators who are joining me today and fellow parents who are joining us today, please make sure you're sending us your questions in the chat box. I'm going to pick them up and make sure I integrate those in my conversation with Anuradha ma'am. So, ma'am, the first question that I would like to ask you, that in the current scheme of things, you've been associated with so many different institutions, plus also through the platform that you are chairing today, you are, getting connected with so many different schools. Do you think that, schools are currently a safe place in India? I mean, what are the challenges that you see? What are the obstructions? What is your perspective on this?
See, I wouldn't even call it safe, because safe is used in many terminologies, safe walking at night, safe as walking, going in a bus. But I would say schools are safe. Schools are centers of positive thinking, learning, and, when, of course, keeping the pandemic in mind, when the child is happy, basically we need to see a happy child going to school. Automatically, many times the safety goes in the back burner, and the children are so happy to meet. I feel we should have a lot of sports in the open, I mean, that's where one place these kids don't need to wear masks, because then the sports field, bring the sports field into the classroom, you know. And maybe now with the new constructions happening, one should look at the form before the learning thing happens. By meaning form, the architectural structure of the school is the, I would call the third teacher. And we do learn a lot from that. Yes, talking about safety, yes, you have to have rules, but it's not only for your staff and your, or your parents or your students. It's the whole bandwidth, right from entering the school, whether it's janitors or it's the bus conductors or it's your own buses. We have to see that they're all happy and they're all taken care of, where the whole sanitization is done. It's not to ignore them, but every part of the school needs to be looked at. And I think it's going to be wonderful, because basically the school is a big family. So that that even the dining hall and all, because there are a lot of waiters serving. Yeah, you'll put a mask on them, you'll put gloves on them, but you have to see their sanitation, where they live, how they come. So, and then you will see the schools are getting safer by the day. And of course, when we place the desks, there has to be some kind of a gap. And then, little kids forget. They even forget to find their own masks when they go for PE. They'll wear some other masks. So sometimes masks have also caused hazards.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think a lot of the educators and parents joining us would agree with your opening remarks on this question. And I think I just love the perspective that you added, that we should look at it as a big, huge family that we have on campus, which is extremely inclusive and includes safety measures for everybody who touches the school in one aspect or the other. So now, for the benefit of the teachers who are joining us here, they would like to know from you that in your experience, how can we actually create these safe places in our classrooms, places where, children don't feel any sort of inhibition to express themselves. They can freely express their ideas. As we know that, as a society also, we are going through an evolving time today. I mean, there's so many different societal, structures which are currently evolving and changing. So there's so many different ideas that children are getting exposed to. And we would love for them to have these conversations in school with teachers, with their fellow peers, so that, there's a correct understanding of these issues. So how would you say that, our teachers can create these sort of spaces in the classrooms where students can freely express themselves without any doubt?
So basically, I believe a lot in peer counseling, and a teacher to teacher could discuss. And the best thing would be not only have the high school teachers separate with the little teachers. You have to, work on them as a whole. And if a teacher can come up to another teacher and say, look, I'm having difficulties dealing with A, B, and C, then at least they can get help from inside. Schools always have, I know a lot of people who can come in and help the teachers how to recognize the kids. At the same time, the kids need to respect the teachers. Yeah, it's both ways, right? Teachers are facilitators now. You can't call them teachers. But like, for example, I remember what the teachers went through when you had everything on online. Otherwise, the parent was happy with the school and the teachers. The moment this online system started, they would actually sit in the classes and kind of bring down the teachers. And maybe a teacher spelled something wrong or an accent was a little bit off. And then they made these groups, parents WhatsApp groups, really bringing down teachers. That, and that killed them. They were saying that, how could they have a home to run, their children are at home, they have to look after their children. And then on top of that, you have so much criticism. So that needs to go. And the child will, you can say you're friendly with the children, but you're not their friend. So that's how, and the spaces need to be changed a bit. I personally don't believe in chalk and talk. We could have the kids sit in circles, but at a distance, right? And so then they've been doing their work, collaborating, they're discussing things, and the teacher is going from table to understand, and that makes the child think more.
Definitely, ma'am. And I think, I think if I had to summarize some of the key points, one is definitely that, now we are relooking, where we say that, a teacher is more of a facilitator, not a conventional teacher. But having said that, obviously, there needs to be some sort of boundaries and lines that need to be created in that relationship. And I think you're absolutely right when you say this, that even parents have to, appreciate the sort of status that a teacher has, even as a facilitator, and avoid sort of bad mouthing the school or bad mouthing the teacher, or criticizing, especially in front of children, because then that would obviously sort of breed that negativity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, ma'am. So, that is something I definitely, and I think for our parents who are joining us here, I think this is like some really valuable advice, that if you actually want your students to take school seriously, it's important that we first create an environment at home where we respect the school and we respect the resources that the school is giving to you in terms of the faculty and other school resources that they're providing today. And even the think about relooking the way we have structured our classrooms today, just relooking seating arrangement, because then that just changes the entire nature of the kind of knowledge delivery that we have.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely, ma'am. So I think those are some very, very interesting pointers. So, while we have taken this topic on our social media platforms, one thing that consistently that a lot of our subscribers did have comments on or wanted to seek your response on is the fact that, as we know that now in India, the LGBTQ movement has become very strong. And we have had the decriminalization of Article 377. There's a lot of open conversation now that happens around it. So everybody wants to know that how can we bring this sort of a conversation to schools, because obviously you would like to sensitize your students also about it, but how do we do it in a very responsible fashion and actually have a responsible conversation about the LGBTQ rights, the LGBTQ community, so that if students associate themselves to that particular clique, then they can freely express themselves. What is your opinion on this?
Well, I'll be based my experiences with my school. I'll share that first with you. Was I had gone out for some work and I get a call from my secretary that there's a parent who's come with twins who these kids are transgender kids, and they've been rejected from every school. I said, I'm coming back. And I met the kids, I met the mother. Mother was from, where was she from? Somewhere in the Saudi area. And she said, the risk of keeping those kids there. And I said, no, I'll see to it. And then, of course, had a big meeting with the teachers. It's funny that some of our students understand more about LGBT than our own teachers understand, because they're mixing with more people, they're looking at more shows. And so then we had a nice chat. I got to explain to the teachers, so not to look down. I was very firm about it. And me as a head of school always made rounds, at least 4 or 5 rounds a day in the school. And today, one of them is a great painter. His paintings are sold all over, and the other one runs 6 saloons.
Wow.
So this really makes it. Then we had another kid who definitely didn't want to. He was a boy. He wanted to become a girl, and how I had to do some counseling with the father. And when I did, because I'm a psychologist, when I did some counseling with the father, I understood his fear, because he himself was like this when he was in the younger days. And of course, one can't come out. One is always in the closet. But this child was bright, and I helped these children. So first of all, I think the first training has to go first to discuss it with your own staff, your janitors, and because slight remark could really hurt them. Then have a discussion with the teachers, then also make little groups with students and staff to discuss this. And once you give students this power of being in the advisory committee, they could really help and help the student.
Absolutely. Firstly, I think kudos to you, ma'am, for actually taking such a welcome move. Because like you yourself said that, that particular parent was turned away from a lot of schools. So it's really great that, at least somebody is taking that step in the direction of actually, including children and ensuring that there's no bar to access to education just because of somebody's orientation, or just because they align with a different gender, or that they are a transgender themselves. And I think this idea of having a conversation, firstly sensitizing your entire staff, your entire faculty, also creating these channels between student and staff and faculty, even smaller groups where they can come and discuss these forums, I think that discuss on these forums, I think that's a great advice. And I think that is definitely something that schools should look at doing. And that would be that'd be a first step in creating a more open environment and actually ensuring that we are having responsible conversations.
And you see, quite a bit of it is genetic. The kids can't help it. But well, there's something new which has come up now, which is called them.
Right.
Every time there's something new coming up. And I don't know how well that is working, but it's still working.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So, I mean, this is a lot of a conversation that, you see that students are having these days about what are the kind of pronouns that they want to be addressed as. So like you said, there's so much of learning and relearning that also needs to happen at the teacher and the staff level to ensure, because, they're also at such a sensitive age that you don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
Right. So, ma'am, like you were saying that, nowadays students have access to so much of information, and a lot of this information is also courtesy their, huge presence that they have on social media. Now, obviously, it comes with its advantages, it comes with its disadvantages as well. So, like we know, cyberbullying and, all the issues, the negative issues, associated with the cyberspace are something that, schools have been trying to grapple with. And we know that the kind of harmful effects it has had on students, sometimes even to the step where they've taken very extreme steps.
That's right.
So how do we, tackle this issue in schools? Like, how do we actually create these very safe sort of, spaces? How do we ensure that we are dealing adequately with cyberbullying? What kind of sensitization workshops should we have? What can the school do to make things easier?
See, it became even worse the last few years because of this pandemic. The kids were at home, they had this machine in front of them, and a lot of harm has taken. And this Instagram was another big problem with the photographs. But I think, first of all, again, I said that all the people have to be sensitized. But yet, just don't do some, just a counseling, because you can share with them some terrible incidents which have happened. And some of us could be responsible for that. So it'll take some time, but if there's nobody who could talk to the kids from, or the teachers or the staff from within, then you have to get an expert from outside. And if any of you want people, I could let you know. There's a very good company called Momentum India, and they do a lot of good work on this. See, once, and then they do the cyberbullying in 3 stages. Once is with the senior leadership team, then with the teachers, and then with the students. So with the students, they have something a little more youngish which the kids are using, but yet they can be shocked for what they hear. They have to see the truth. It's just not, no, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. So this has to be ongoing for some time. And yet they should also be aware that, this finally could take them into jail.
Correct.
But in a very nice way. So they know, they understand what they're going in for before even they start doing it.
Absolutely. So I think for all our school educators joining here, I think this is a very good sort of piece of information. If you have not tied up, there are specialized organizations that are doing these kind of training modules and workshops, and which are actually attacking all levels of the school, like right from the leadership to the students. So ensuring that, they are sensitizing each of these sections on, the boon as well as the bane of social media. And I think I totally agree with ma'am that, like ma'am said, I think it's important for us to expose students to the harshest of realities, of to what level can things go to, for them to be able to fathom that a small action, what kind of repercussions it has. And only if we are transparent with them, we can ensure that, they don't sort of, fall into these traps, because definitely these traps are present in a plenty in the social media space. And we can't even imagine. And I think this facet that ma'am is talking about today, that, just with the sheer amount of screen time and screen exposure because of the pandemic, there's only so much that even parents and all of us can control. I mean, you are not going to be able to control everything. So we have to ensure that we at least prepare them so that they are able to use each of these mediums and platforms very responsibly, and also, have a sense of accountability of putting themselves out there. So, ma'am, while we are talking about, we've spoken about the cyberspace, we've spoken about students. I think one thing that I would like to also know from you is, like, we've all recognized the fact that, teachers have to be a part of this conversation, your staff has to be a part of the conversation. Now, how can we train our teachers to provide a more sensitive and supportive environment? Because, like, we are seeing that the times are changing very quickly. As the times are changing very quickly, it's also very important for a teacher to constantly transform themselves. And there has to be that sort of, transformation process that is being anchored by the schools. So how can we train our teachers in, all of these, how to, deal with all these sensitive challenges that can arise in the classroom?
So the first thing I would say is that one has to look after the teacher's well-being for them to understand. Teachers have really suffered in the last year and a half. One has to understand about the teachers, what they are going through. I mean, yes, we can have, as I shared, they can have peer counselings, they can have meetings with their peers to see how best they can discuss this cyber. But the cyber they're too naive to talk to other teachers about it. You have to have special experts. But I'm very, very serious about the teacher's well-being, to set up a classroom to make a good connected classroom, a connected environment. Because if the teacher is happy, she'll go all the way out. And if she's not looking after, so for example, like the criticism from people about a certain teacher, but even when, especially in a lot of private schools, when nowadays schools have become clients, and there's customer service, yeah, and you forget that there's a teacher involved in between. So I feel that yes, they have to have learning. And best is that if few schools can get together and work on it, so they can take a lot of ideas from each other, discuss, and keep in touch with the teachers. And another issue we have is that a lot of people are scared to let the teachers talk to somebody else from another school. But the environment has to be favorable, and that's how one really gets to know about what is happening.
Absolutely. I think you've flagged off a very key issue here, which I don't think we talk enough about, which is sort of also looking after the mental well-being of our teachers. And like you yourself said, that I think this pandemic has been extremely difficult on the teachers. I mean, they've been, dealing with their domestic duties, as well as, suddenly the need to transform to become tech savvy and to be delivering online. It's come with a huge set of challenges. Since you've been a school leader for such a long time, you're consulting with so many schools look up to you for advice. what can we do? What kind of systems can we have in our schools today that actually look after the well-being, the mental well-being of our teachers? If some pointers, if you may share with us from your experience.
See, I'll share with you about mine because I believe in leading through the heart. So when I came to my school, I saw there was so much differentiation between a kindergarten teacher and a high-level chemistry teacher, even where salaries were concerned. So one thing I did was I called my chemistry teacher and said, could you please teach these kindergartens? They couldn't. So I wanted equality. Then I even looked at my, here they call it, the support staff. And I said, they're always wearing these green saris or blue saris. Why don't I get them a colorful sari, which will help the atmosphere, which will help them. Then I made houses for them. They were part with the students and the teachers. So it became a very happy atmosphere. Every activity in school, everybody was involved, even to set up and even house meaning even for the sports, this support staff was there. And that's why I felt that they felt very happy. And yet, like if the teacher today had to make, if this, many times they feel scared to tell the truth. Suddenly one of the teachers had to tell me that they have to, came to me one day and said, Miss, you know what, I forgot to put my Christmas cake in the oven. I'm not too far away, can I quickly go and go? And I said, go ahead. And so with that, and a lot of incidents, similar incidents, and my dog died, my cat died, that they feel that they don't need to make all these yarns. So it became a very happy school. And it was also that they were part of all the teams. The students and teachers had got together. Then there was a grievance committee where the students and teachers were on it. I wasn't on it. And they took the call. And so the student would look at the student point of view, teachers, and then they would come collectively. So that made a very happy school.
How lovely. I mean, I think a lot of these suggestions that you have shared, I think all of us can take these back and apply these in our ecosystems as well. Because I think it just definitely boils down to this, right? About how happy everybody's feeling, how integrated everybody's feeling, how connected everybody's feeling within the system. And while we're talking about, I think, mental well-being, thankfully now we have a lot of conversation about that, how it's important to integrate mindfulness into our lives, because it just kind of helps us centering ourselves as individuals and promotes a healthier mental well-being. So how can we bring mindfulness into the school curriculum for everybody, not only for students, but for everybody, because it's a great lifestyle habit to imbibe and to, actually take forward?
Well, I think what it is this, it's not only mindfulness, it's not only just sitting and meditating, I think you come into, again, happiness all around the school helps, away from the digital technology, and yet put it in the curriculum. It could be a nice library time. Some teachers, students who just want to go to the art room and just paint what they want to, or write what they want to, express their issues. It really helps. But make a period for that so the teachers can come. And of course, when the teachers are free, they can go. They're not held and bent sitting in the staff room. And this is all part of it. Sports is a big part of it. And, so anything to relax. I mean, just mediation is not going to, just to just to do meditation. No. I personally feel, let the child bring the inner self out, let the teachers bring an inner self out, and also let it happen to your support staff and even your head of school, and what they like best. Maybe if one of them will suggest, let's few of us have a coffee morning in the school. Well, that's all right.
Wow, I think so. I think I love this idea of probably creating a de-stress hour in the school timetable where everybody can take that period of 40, 45 minutes and just de-stress. If you want to play a sport, play a sport, you want to go paint your heart's content, to do that. You want to just go read in the library, probably have a book discussion with a couple of people and get your mind off things. Let's do that. And I also see it's a great way to connect, again, a great way to connect your faculty and staff with your students. So just sort of, integrating them and giving them another opportunity to get a Windows view into the other person's life. Super. So I think, ma'am, we're running out of time, but I have to ask you this question because this is one of, again, a very popularly asked question. And I think, everybody will want to hear your opinion on it. Now, as we're looking to open up schools again, and obviously it's nobody had ever thought that, schools would shut down for like more than a year. I mean, we've gotten a lot of time to introspect, rethink about, the way we want schools to function. Some things have been changed by the pandemic. So from the top of your mind, what are the top 3 to 4 things that you think that definitely, now that schools are opening up, are some new sort of steps or initiatives that they should definitely launch within their ecosystem to make school spaces safe, or just generally, steps which are probably progressive and which are the need of the hour? So from your experience, what are these top 3, 4 things?
I think children do need to go to school. They do need to socialize. It's not only education. Socialization is a very, very important part. And they need to get out. For example, if in a house you're, like let's say some plumbing thing happens, you get a plumber, fix it, and then you're out. So in the same way, these children need it. And if you see in our country, a lot of children haven't been able to succeed through this whole technology bit. But socialization is so important. Okay, at the moment they can't give hugs to each other, but still to be out there. So blended learning is great. I mean, you can, do classes, but don't make it that, and you're doing blended learning, that if you're on with the teachers on, when they're in front of the kids, then you're also doing the online while going on. That doesn't work. A lot of schools are doing that while the blended learning is happening, the online system is also happening. I don't think it should be done. Bathrooms, you have to be very careful. And maybe give gaps for children to go there. And each time the kids go, it all has to be cleaned up, but all in a very friendly way, no bullying for the kids to do this. And, and if you have more than 2-3 sections, then you can, have children come 3 times a week also will be enough. I mean, children are bright, they'll catch on. And maybe some of the work may not be on the computer, to help the kid write something down and bring it back, and kids will love it. And even collaborative work will be wonderful. So my own little grandkids are going to school and they're enjoying themselves. So I think one has to watch out, and yet sometimes you feel they have to watch out even what the animals in the school, if you have pets, because sometimes pets can be also carriers.
I think these are wonderful suggestions. And I think all the educators who are also joining me today and the parents would totally agree with you that socialization is the need of the hour for these children. All of them are desperate to meet each other, just to be back to school. And, also learn physically, in schools, because I think you're absolutely bang on right when you have pointed out that the learning, though it has happened through the online mode, the knowledge delivery may have happened, but we don't think that 100% the knowledge absorption may have happened.
Exactly. And, at home, with all this, there's been a lot of abuse at home in many places. And that has caused a lot of problems. So this will be in and out for the parents. So they could also kind of get out of it, because the kids are at school, they can do a bit of their thing. It'll be a very friendly environment once again.
Absolutely, ma'am. So I think this is definitely a suggestion that most schools should take. I mean, it has been happening in a lot of states, but even otherwise, if it's not happening in a state, at least having like school meetups once in a week, which may even happen in the school grounds, in open spaces. You can call like smaller clusters. I think that can be a first step in the right direction. of at least getting the children, back into the fold of the school, getting them back into the groove. And we can only hope that things are going to be better from here. But
Yeah.
Anuradha ma'am, it's been such an honor and such a pleasure to be conversing with you. I think you've given me so many reflections to chew on and, to reflect on, that even, we can consider today even implementing in the higher education space. So I definitely feel speaks volumes about, how passionate you are about education and the diverse experience you have as an educator.
Yeah. Thank you. It's lovely being with you.